Yeah, well, look, I'm kind of going around. I go encouraging libertarians to support Trump. That doesn't mean you got to be a 100% Trump lover. And so honestly, as a libertarian who observed Trump, I listened to that speech and I'm skeptical. Not because it doesn't sound good, but because, in my opinion, there are things that Trump has promised that he's failed to do. But he's the only chance, right? The Libertarian Party was always going to lose, and they nominated someone who's not even worth supporting, right? If you're gonna have a protest vote, it's got to be someone worth protesting for. So there's no libertarian candidate in the race to do that. Trump is offering libertarians things. Trump has some people in his corner, like Vivek now, who I think could plausibly make things a lot better. And obviously, Biden is one of the worst presidents we've had. Absolutely terrible. So there's no other choice, and libertarians have some chance to get some of what they want. And I'll take some of what I want over nothing. That's an easy choice.
What's wrong with Chase Oliver?
Chase Oliver, I think I'm not going to go around saying he's not a libertarian. People can debate that. But I absolutely refuse to support a libertarian who is also an egalitarian. I mean, Chase is someone who is a bleeding heart, who is going to be on the wrong side, not just of every cultural issue, but also on economic issues. American citizens are more important than people in Gaza or Ukraine or whatever else these people want to care about. The open border stance that comes from egalitarianism, the sympathy, for the trans kids and some of what I would consider child abuse. Again, for better or worse, comes from this flawed worldview of egalitarianism. And so, to me, if a candidate is going to be an egalitarian, I can't support them. And so egalitarianism is basically the left-right divide. Trump is clearly the most right-wing candidate in the race. And so I'm going to support him on that axis.
How do your fellow libertarians feel about you doing this, noting that you were at the convention, you're a member of the party itself, you're openly stating that you're going to support a candidate of the other party? I can imagine that they're not saying nice things to you.
Yeah, I think there's actually an incredible amount of libertarians in the party who would agree with me. I think that's why so many people in the party literally said they preferred NODA, none of the above, over Chase Oliver. So I think actually Chase Oliver, and you said this, so I'm repeating your own words. You probably said it several times this morning. Chase Oliver is the best thing that could happen for Donald Trump in terms of libertarians voting for him. I think that there are very, very few, if any, right-wing libertarians, which I absolutely am, who are going to pull we don't pull levers, who are gonna push the button for Chase Oliver. Very few. So whatever vote he gets, it's going to come from people who were either non-voters or leftists. I think I just don't see him being able to pull very many votes from Donald Trump. And in New Hampshire, I'll tell you, everyone is with me. Every member of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party. At least I haven't met anyone who has a problem with me backing Trump. No one in the New Hampshire Libertarian Party really wants to back Chase Oliver.
Got it. Jeremy, the Wake Up America show, this show that I produce, is not a libertarian show for libertarians. I consider it to be, it's a libertarian show for normies, to introduce them to libertarianism, get them hooked so that they can go and then be introduced to people like yourself and anarcho-capitalism little later down the line. The clothes taking off and Chase Oliver's can be introduced a little bit later. So this next topic I hope you don't mind, I have to set this up for people who aren't going to be aware of all of these internecine squabbles. The Mises Caucus is an institution that was founded in the Libertarian Party to help stop the leftward drift of the party after the Gary Johnson years. And that institution largely took over most of the levers of power within the party, including the chair of the Libertarian Party itself, a woman named Angela McArdle, who I think did a terrific job. Actually, she invited Donald Trump to speak, and she also RFK and Biden, who didn't appear. But the Mises Caucus floated a candidate that they hoped would be able to take the nomination by the name of Michael Rechtenwald. He's a former professor at NYU, was a lifelong Marxist before he sort of took the red pill and decided that he had more in common with libertarians than he did with the left. But the Mises Caucus failed to get Rechtenwald across the line. What happened?
Look, I think I like a lot of what the Mises Caucus did, and I think Rechtenwald is a good guy, but he was a flawed candidate. And I think the Mises Caucus needs to really self-reflect because I think they sabotaged themselves because they were able to get Angela reelected. A bunch of the Libertarian Party national committee. There's these committee positions that ultimately sort of run the party. But the Mises Caucus got the vast majority of those. So, you know, it wasn't like the Mises Caucus was rejected inside of the Libertarian Party, but you had some people, some sort of neutrals, who just thought that Rechtenwald was such a bad candidate that they preferred gay race communism. You know, I think that's still kind of an indictment of those people, maybe. But I think that the Mises Caucus can't act like they did nothing wrong here. And, you know, I've tried to give them some polite criticism because I appreciate what they've done. I think they're good people. But if they're going to go around and say that this was other people's fault and not theirs, I think that's wrong. I think they've got to look at themselves and realize that they've made some mistakes. And I think, you know, something the Mises Caucus did, which I mostly commend, is they've gotten much better at playing power politics. They're saying, hey, this is how it really works. They've gotten less idealistic about persuasion. That's good. But you can't throw away persuasion. You can't only play power politics because you end up with people having false preferences. If you create a culture in which people can't be honest and you say, well, to be in this caucus, you have to believe this thing, you know, but the thing you're pushing, you're not trying to persuade people of, you get a lot of people who secretly don't agree with you. And if the culture becomes too totalitarian around disagreement, they're obviously not totalitarians, but I mean, no room for dissent. That's not a good thing. You've got to have persuasion and power politics have both got to be in the mix.
Was it the same problem with their vice presidential pick? Because there was a battle on the floor and a deal that was done ultimately to offer the third place vote getter, Mike Termott, a former cop, the vice presidential pick, which is ultimately what put Chase Oliver over the line. Was it just the Mike Termott scenario that stopped the Mises Caucus's vice presidential pick, or was it a similar situation with Rechtenwald? What was that situation?
So I think it was Termott was a big part of it. Termott's story, which I'm not sure I agree with. You know, I don't know where he was. Yeah, I can't say was it going on in his own head. He was supposed to have been something of a never chaser. He says that seeing Rechtenwald stumble on stage on Saturday night made him feel that he couldn't support Rechtenwald either, and he went to Chase being better. And look, you know, it was indefensible. I mean, quite frankly, like. You know, if a proper libertarian should be able to take any amount of drugs and get on stage and criticize Donald Trump. I mean, if they're literally conscious, you know, they could be on DMT, you know, staring at the machine elves themselves and still be able to criticize. I'm joking here a little bit. I'm not. There are plenty of. I'm completely sober libertarians. You don't have to do drugs to be a libertarian. But this idea that it's ridiculous. It was an embarrassment. It was for me. It was a disqualifying event. I can't support someone like, and I'm not. I don't think he's a bad guy. I'm glad, and I also don't like criticizing the guys in the arena. You know, like they're doing the work. So I'm not saying he shouldn't have ran or whatever. I'm glad he did. I hope he continues to be dedicated to the cause of liberty. But there's some specific skills required if you want to be a candidate, and he was lacking in some of them. And it's crazy to say that otherwise.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm speaking to Jeremy Kauffman. He's a member of the Libertarian Party and the Free State Project in New Hampshire, which is fighting for liberty on the state level there, and they're winning a lot of victories. Jeremy, the presidential race is between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Do you think that libertarians could get Donald Trump across the finish line? And if so, could we hold him to his promises?
First question, yes. Second question, maybe. But given the choices, I think you still take that deal. And yeah, look, this is the other thing. You know, I'm in New Hampshire. I actually care not so much about the national political picture. There's a really diehard libertarian movement in New Hampshire of Rothbardian ANCAPs and anarcho-capitalists. These are like the most committed of libertarians. We have you know, a guy as libertarian as Ron Paul, who's our House Majority Leader. We have 100 libertarians who are more libertarian than Gary Johnson, who are elected to the state legislature. So you know, it feels like we're winning here. It feels like libertarians have a real way to win, which is we can concentrate in one area. we can take over an entire state government and, potentially secede at some point. That's a question. That last part's a bit of a question, but we already have the most libertarian state in the country, in accordance with every sort of third-party rating of this kind of thing. And the momentum is only growing here. If you plotted how many election wins we've had, it's gone up every 2 years, basically, for 20 years running. It started with like 3, and we're at 100. And so there's really something happening here that I think a lot of libertarians in the country need to come and experience and check out. I'm not saying you have to move, but you got to come and check it out, because there's something happening here that's unlike the rest of the world. And Porkfest is coming up next month. It's a great festival to come out to for a first-time visitor.
Yeah, they offered to invite me. I wanted to go so bad, but that's right when my child's about to be born. But it's definitely a lot of fun. I was there about a dozen years ago. It's an Anarchy Fest out in the woods of New Hampshire. It's a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to go, definitely do it. You get to meet a lot of interesting characters. Last question here, Jeremy. Circling back around, my DMs are full of people who are asking me what to do. I'm kind of like the lifeboat from the libertarians who are disaffected over to the Republican Party to try and support changing the Republican Party towards a more liberty focused party, and trying now, what I would say, to build a libertarian MAGA alliance, noting that there are distinct differences between these groups. But if we can accomplish some gains for libertarianism, then I'll take the slings and arrows from the purists who will call me a neocon or a statist or whatever, a warmonger. As long as we can do things like free Ross Ulbricht, get a libertarian in the cabinet, possibly free Julian Assange and other things, then I think that those matter a hell of a lot more than just who's the most libertarian. But all of these people who are asking me these questions, I'm imagining that they're probably doing the same to you, Jeremy. They're saying, should I vote for Trump? Why should I vote for Trump? And without using words like egalitarian, big words, like, what do you think really is the best pitch for why people who are like you and I, who believe in a radical decentralization, who believe in a complete and total 180 from where our government has gone to today to now, how would you explain it to people in the most basic terms possible of why people who are like you and I, who believe in radically limiting government, why we should vote for Donald Trump? How would you state that?
Well, I'll give you 2 things. So one is, something is better than nothing. All right, another 4 years of Biden would be the worst thing in the world. The libertarian candidate can't win, and you have some chance of getting some things from Trump. Like, it's clearly better. Is Trump going to usher in libertarian utopia? No, he is not, but it's clearly better. That's one. And then 2, for the people who kind of ask, well, what's different? And I think this is a very good question, because I wasn't a huge fan. I voted for Trump in 2020, despite not being a huge fan of the last 4 years, but I still couldn't support Joe, and I thought he was better than the other options. Now we have Vivek in the mix, who is one of the guys who's become the closest to Trump. And there is not a person in the country who I think has smarter and better ideas about how to dismantle and shrink the government from the inside. And so if Vivek is in that inner circle and Trump is willing to let him run a little bit, I think what could happen is incredible. Because Trump's not he's not a man. He's a great PR guy. He's got incredible energy. I would love Trump staring down any world leader. I think he's incredible at doing that. There's very few people I would prefer. I actually can't think of anyone I would rather have in that route, in those kinds of situations, than Trump. He's a 99.99th percentile negotiator. I didn't have enough nines there. He didn't understand how to dismantle the government on the inside. It's too many details. It's not his thing. Having someone like Vivek, who incredibly sharp, who gets it, who has ideas that no one else has had about how to shrink the administrative state, that's a game changer. And so certainly that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm enthusiastic about supporting Trump this year.
Jeremy, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners, or maybe even plug before we let you go today?
You can follow me on X at Jeremy Kauffman. I'm very active there. I have around 50,000 followers. And come visit New Hampshire sometime. DM me, reach out to me. I'd love to help you have a great trip and learn more about New Hampshire.
Jeremy, you've got huge guts, and thank you for being so generous with your time this morning. We appreciate your take on things. Have a wonderful day, and good luck in New Hampshire.
Cheers.
Thank you. What do you